Well, good morning, Jay. Welcome back to Civilization. This is N4TSE, not for terribly smart children, and I want to thank you for all your help. I spent a week trying to reprogram everything after that last message that I sent you, and I think if you can hear me this morning, we've got it together, at least partially. But I have some questions to ask you. AA4FL, N4TSE, not for terribly smart children.
Good morning, Jerry. I got you checked into the net, by the way. We're having technical problems on the Quadnet array. I'm glad you're back on, and I'm around this weekend to can answer some questions. Certainly, I'm leaving town again on Monday, so I'll be gone for about 8 days. Then I'll be back when I'll probably have more time when I return. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Glad you got it back together. AA4.
A4FLWA1EXA. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you, Mark. WA1EXA, and thank you for taking over. I was out of town. I heard the discussion here as how the DMR doesn't seem to be reaching the Quadnet array. I mean, we're certainly reaching each other, but it's not translating over to the DMR side. And I'm not logged into the DMR side right now itself, but curious if it even shows up using DV stick, Blue DV. AA4FL. Any other stations on frequency you'd like to check in early for the Medical Amateur Radio Council net? Okay, AA4FL. So I think Hilton comes in. I'm not sure if I think he comes in through DMR. He might also have D-Star, so I sent him an email. But it's going to affect our operation today. I'm going to be going back and forth between D-Star on the Quadnet array and the DMR here directly, and just letting people know there's some technical difficulties. But I do have the NetLogger up and running, and have four stations checked in. Etsu checked in from Japan on D-Star, which I was able to get on the Blue DV, but it didn't translate through to the HT. AA4FL for ID.
A4FL PUI A4FL PUI2 BBQ. Can you hear me?
We'll be in here except when the internet drops me.
Yeah, well, I understand that from being in the car with the hotspot. No, it's good talking to you, Andrew. Thanks for coming in and saying hello on your way on the trip. We had just gotten back from the North Georgia mountains and only made it over into Murphy. Went across the state line. You know, we do have other members that are in the Myrtle Beach area, but I don't think they're digital radioactive. But our incoming president has a home in North Myrtle Beach. Over.
PY2 BBQ transmitting via D star now. Can you copy A4FL?
QSL Hilton, copy you on the D star side only on the Blue DV. It's not coming through to the DMR. Over.
Roger, Roger. I tried to transmit via DMR and noticed that you were not hearing me, although I could listen to you via DMR. Anyway, as I'm using the Blue DV, I can switch to D star and go on in D star, and also the streaming in the YouTube will be done by D star. Okay, be waiting for the beginning. For FL, PY2 BBQ.
Thanks once again, Hilton. What I'll do for those that are on DMR and not making the net is I'll transmit their check-in information. We do have N4TSC and WA1EXA that have come in through the DMR side, so they're both not making the Quadnet array. So I'll just go back and forth between the two. AA4FL for ID. Any other stations for early check-in for the Quadnet array medical image radio council DVNet? WW9F. Good morning, Jeff. WW9F. I suppose you heard the conversation about the technical difficulties today. Any other stations wanting to check in on the D-Star side?
Well, if I have everything straightened out, let's do that. Katie, for
Fine business, Jack. KD4IZ. Again, we have some people on the DMR side, so I'm going to let the transmission drop here and go over to DMR and just let them know where we're at. AA4FL. This is AA4FL for the Medical Amateur Radio Council DVNet that meets weekly on the Quadnet array at 1500 UTC. We're having some technical difficulties today with interoperability. We have NetLogger up and running. We have 9 check-ins so far. We're having to alternate between D-Star and DMR on my HD because the two don't seem to be talking to each other today. But is there anyone on DMR that can copy me now? If you're actually using DMR to access, are you copying my transmission? If so, go ahead and make your call right now. Okay, nothing heard on that side. Is there anyone with emergency traffic, or anybody that cannot stay on the net, has limited time this morning? So go ahead and make your check in now. Okay, Mark gives me a report that he's hearing me through Hilton's broadcast. So if anyone, Hilton has shared if he shared the link here, if you'd like to listen to me on the DMR, on the D-Star side, even though you're a DMR user, you can do it through the YouTube. But I'm going to go ahead and switch over now. If you guys will hold one on D-Star and let everybody know on DMR what's happening. AA4FL. Okay, sorry to keep everyone waiting. This is AA4FL, and we had the DMR transmissions going here. We were aware that the Hilton has the monitoring here on the D-Star side, so people on the DMR that don't have access because of the interoperability are at least able to copy the D-Star transmissions using the link that's provided on NetLogger. So Hilton's put up, if you're using NetLogger on the AIM window, the instant messaging window, Hilton does have the link here for his YouTube live stream. A little awkward today since we're doing it on both sides, but again, it's an interoperability issue. Are there any general check-ins here now for the net, for the Medical Amateur Radio Council, Quadnet, ArrayNet? Go ahead and make your call now to AA4FL. Okay, from point of information, and I've got the group of these DMR people speaking to each other, but the check-ins we have between the two modes, myself, JA0BXP, Etsu was on from Japan earlier, of course it's past midnight now, so the time change issue even made his time zone an hour later, which is after midnight for the start of the net. We also have N4TSC, WA1EXA, WJ8B Portable, driving through North Carolina, PY2BBQ, who's doing the live stream, Hilton in Brazil, WW9F Jeff, KD4IZ, N5RTF on DMR side, Chip, and KB0LZ, is a new Marco member. Is there anyone else that would like to do a general check-in at this time? Go ahead and make your call. Oh, there was an additional login on the DMR side, Kilo 3 Foxtrot Zulu Tango. So we have him there. We're going to let Mark go ahead and run the net on the DMR side. So let's go ahead, coming here on the D-Star side, and have some conversation. Trying to remember who is coming in through D-Star. WJ8B, are you here, Andrew?
Yes, we're hearing you. It did drop once, but it quickly relinked. So, yeah, it's not too much to add today, but in Ohio, the numbers are slowly improving. They're not improving as fast as we would like on the COVID. The vaccine availability and the number of people being vaccinated has been improving a lot. So, still not safe to go without mask, etc. But it's at least it's looking on the upward side. Our neighboring states in Michigan are having problems. The British variant is present up there, and their numbers have been going up. So, not too much else going on. I'll give it back to you, Jay. AA4FL, WJB Global.
Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate that. Again, we're trying to run the two nets basically with the problems here. A little awkward. PY2 BBQ Hilton. I know a lot has been going on in Brazil. At least there's reporting here in the States. Would you like to give us a report on your perception and what you're aware of, both locally and countrywide, and maybe describe if the problem is in a particular area or throughout the country? AA4, I'll go ahead.
Turn on the microphone on the YouTube also. Otherwise, who is in the YouTube won't listen to me. For FL, PY2 BBQ Hilton from São Paulo, Brazil. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Yes, the problem here regarding COVID-19 is spread out of control in the last few weeks. and we didn't already reach the peak of the second wave. It's still growing up and spreading, and in the whole country. You know, it's starting in a few other states, especially in the northern area, but now it's all around the country. And what we see is 3,600 deaths a day. That's what happened yesterday. 3,600 deaths by COVID-19 in Brazil, and we reached 307,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic 1 year ago. The ICU beds are more than 90% occupied. In some places, the health system has broken, and people are dying waiting for ICU beds. That's really terrible. The vaccination goes on. We have already given 20 million doses. 20 million doses have already been given. More than 5 million people have already received 2 doses. Of course, it started with health personnel, and then the older population. Wait one. Papa Yankee 2, Bravo, Bravo, Quebec, back to Marco DVNet. What we have seen is a decrease of the number of patients from 70 years old and up, because most of them have already been vaccinated, so it seems to be working. The 2 vaccines that are being given are already being produced in Brazil. The government had problems buying vaccines because of it's hard to get them. Everybody is buying vaccines, so the good solution was to produce them here, and they're being at least 2 of them are being already produced here in Brazil. We have a lockdown in many places, especially here in São Paulo, the biggest city in the country. The measure decreed a 10-day long holiday. It started yesterday, so we gotta stay home. Well, in our chat, in our YouTube transmission, we can find here a chat. Let me see if we have any new comment. Yeah, Andrew Magnet, K4 Quebec Yankee, he said, I'm not a cheer competition with the doctor in Orlando. Have a great net. James Brooker, good morning from Kilo Bravo 8 Quebec, former November Golf 8 Echo. He tried to check twice via D-Star. Well, D-Star seems to be working fine. Okay, so that's the story. Back to you. Oh, and of course, we have today and tomorrow the CQ WPX contest. I have already performed about 100 QSOs, and it's really hot. So back to the net control. This is Papa Yankee 2, Bravo, Bravo, Quebec.
Okay, this is AA4FL. I'm trying to transmit both here on DMR and D-Star at the same time. I broadcasted the signal of Hilton PY2BBQ. We have an additional check-in of KB8Q. Sorry we missed that there. We were going back and forth between the two modes because we're having interoperability problems here, but we do appreciate that. And we have so far 12 check-ins. We also had K3FZT checked in and acknowledged, as well as KB0LZ. So AA4FL, JA0BXP, N4TSC, WA1EXA, WJ8B, PY2BBQ, WW9F, KD4IZ, N5RTF, KB0LZ, K3FZT, and KB8Q. Okay, I'm going to let it drop. Okay, so again, because of interoperability problems, I'm transmitting both using my DV stick on DStar and transmitting also on my HT on DMR. So on the DMR side, is there anyone that would like to go ahead and make comments? Go ahead and make them at this time.
For TSC, first of all, I'd like to thank Mark for giving me the indicator that I could monitor what's going on by going to YouTube and typing in Marco Digital Voice, and I succeeded in doing that. And also, one of you gave me the indication that I could download the NetLogger. I had no experience with that at all, and took a couple of minutes to download, and I've got it up and running now. So that's something else I picked up. So picked up two new things, two new pieces of information today, and I thank all of you for that. And with that, let me turn it back to you, Jay. I'm hearing you both on YouTube with a 20-second delay and directly through the MDR 380 through the PyStar now. Back to you, Jay.
Okay, thank you very much, N4TSC. I was transmitting your audio through to the net on the DStar side. So hopefully everybody got a chance to have a little bit more of the traditional feel. Again, it's kind of awkward today and hard to have a round table. But is there anyone else on the DMR side that has a report that I'd like to pass along to the people on the DStar side about what's going on in COVID in their area? If go ahead and make your call to me, and we'll give you the mic after we confirm it. AA4FL.
First of all, apologize for talking on top of the last transmission. I didn't realize it, but anyway, as far as Massachusetts is concerned, we're seeing an uptick. It's our positivity rate went from 1.4 to 2.3, I think, yesterday. We're getting the increase in vaccines, all three, and we're also starting new vaccine sites. There is some problems because they are opening up schools throughout the state, and we've had a couple of schools that have to close down after they open up. That's processing along. And other than that, I think that's probably not much different than the rest of the state. So back to you.
Okay, AA4FL again transmitting on both DStar DMR in two separate entities. Thank you, Mark. I was able to include your audio on the D-Star side there. Thank you for the report. And we all see what's in the public domain in the news. And it's and some of the same issues, of course, from state to state, as you say. But it's just nice to see that gradually we're making progress. And as we said in our last newsletter, the escaped mutants are still the big concern. And as long as it's out there in the population, in certain parts of the world, the chance of having a mutation that's of significance that does exist, even if it's not likely. So, if one comes that haunts us, even though we've been vaccinated, it can harm us. But hopefully, that is not necessarily likely, nor will it happen, and we'll continue to make progress towards being in the clear. And progress towards getting the rest of the world covered as well. So, we're very fortunate to have science on our side and have uh, excellent people working on tackling these issues, both in Europe and the United States and in Asia. We know that, of course, there's also vaccines in other parts of the world. So humanity will succeed. Hopefully, there's not morbidity and mortality along the way. Are there any comments that like to be made on the D-Star side? If so, go ahead and make your call to AA4FL, and I'll acknowledge you, and then we'll get your comments out to the DMR people. AA4FL, waiting for input. Okay, no additional comments on the D-Star side. Anybody else on the DMR side that would like to make comments? I'm going to call the net early because of the technical difficulties. I appreciate everybody working with us to at least get a semi-functional net. Go ahead, AA4FL, make your call to me. N5RTF, go ahead and make your call.
On our vaccination, we now have 4 vaccines approved, but only seeing 3 of them in circulation. And in British Columbia here, we've now started into our mass vaccination plans for all the citizens of the province with an expected first dose administration for everybody by the end of June. And that's all I have as an update. Back to net control.
Okay, thank you. That was Richard, V7BSP. Thank you, Richard. N5RTF, go ahead.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, everything is fine here in New Orleans. I was a little concerned. We've had spring breakers here in the French Quarter last weekend and again last night. So it's going to be interesting to see if they bring us anything or take anything home with them. But that'll take a couple weeks to find out. I'm using the Anytone handheld again. Time slot. I've had some back and forth on the time slot for the Quadnet. Is it time slot 2? Need an answer on that. Thank you.
For IZ, AA4FL. Jack, if you're still copying, did you hear that question from N5RTF? Could you let him know the time slot for Quadnet when he's using DMR? Over.
Papa Yankee 2, Bravo, Bravo, Quebec. As far as I know, and every time in DMR, we gotta use the time slot 1, right? Sorry. The time slot for Quadnet is number 2, because it's not a static not a static talk group. So always the non-static, the dynamic talk groups, you gotta use the time slot 2, and the static talk groups like the national talk groups, you go to time slot 1. So of course Quadnet, it's time slot 2, A for FL, PY2, BBQ.
Not linked. Linked X R F 757A. Linked X R F 757A. Not linked. Not linked. Linked X R F 757A.
Those cases in the U.S. that had gotten vaccinated and had developed theoretical immunity. And then he termed any of these cases as breakthrough cases. So the determination has to be, and you have to limit what you're looking at. You can't look at a whole bunch of variations in the U.S. and Europe and so on and mix and match. It just doesn't work that way. You have to isolate your question and look specifically at what he was talking about. And he was talking about those cases of people that, let's say, have had, let's say, the Pfizer vaccination, and they've gone through the 2 week period at least post vaccination, and they had a theoretical level. He said those are the cases that when there's a breakthrough, you have to determine whether those are breakthroughs of variations or forms of the coronavirus that had already been vaccinated against, or whether they were new variants, new mutations, and that's what the question has been honed down to. I hope that makes it clear, Jay. Back to you. And that was the point that he was making. He was saying that if you have hundreds of thousands of people who have been vaccinated, you don't know who's been seroconverted or not, but you're just looking at the question as just a large question in order to try to reassure the public that they will be protected against it. If you have a lot of people saying, "Oh well, this vaccine is worthless because you don't seroconvert," they don't understand that. And so he was just taking the question as a general question in order to try to put some context in it so that the people generally will accept the vaccination. If you have people saying, well, it's worthless to get the vaccination because you're not going to get seroconverted, and you try to get into the weeds, they won't understand it. So basically, that's what his comment was, and that's what I was trying to report that he was saying yesterday. Over.
AA4FL, totally understood. But then, if you're only dealing with numbers of like 100 breakthrough cases, what they consider breakthrough cases, assuming that they're not due to a new variant that's an escape mutant, even if you have a 99.9% success rate with seroconversion from the vaccine, you're still going to have that number of people pop up. So I guess for us as doctors, we understand it differently than the public. So it's one thing to have a public display of information. Another thing for us as health providers to understand it at a little deeper level. Thank you for making me aware of that line of thinking, etc. Any final comments, Jerry, on 4TSC AA4FL?
Yeah, I would think that on one hand you want to reassure the public, but on the other hand you have to give an explanation, at least in terms that they can understand of why you're asking people to continue to wear a mask, to wash their hands, and to protect themselves against a change in in their exposure risk. And so, if you have still somewhat of a risk, you want to protect as much as you can. If you have people getting to the point where they're saying, okay, well, I've had a vaccination and therefore I'm home free and I can do anything I want, then you're going to have more of a complication of this issue. And so he's walking a fine line or trying to balance himself between one side and the other. And I think that's what this whole thing is about. But anyway, I just wanted to bring up the point that he made that yes, you're going to have in lay terms certain failures, and that we have to look at to find out why those failures exist. Anyway, that's how I see it right now. And bottom line is, we just don't know enough. We need more information and data, medical data that's reliable is what we have to look for. AA4FL and 4TSC.
researcher from Pfizer. Uh, the information that I was new to me was that a number of companies are now doing testing for protease inhibitors and transcriptase inhibitors to see if there's any effect on COVID and as a treatment, not as a preventing, but as a treatment. So that was news to me. If maybe others knew it, I didn't.
A4FL, do you copy Papa Yankee 2, Bravo Bravo, Quebec, over?
PY2 BB2 AA4FL. I'm not sure if I needed to reboot and lose the D star side on.
I'll try to do something fancy. I'll try to transmit both in D star and DMR. Yes, Jay, I'm sorry, we are having a lot of technical problems related to Quadnet. Sometimes I can hear you and I can broadcast you to the YouTube streaming, other times I can't. I could hear most of the comments of Mark, Whiskey Alpha 1 Echo X-Ray Alpha, but many times I could not follow your part of the discussion, even when you transmitted via DMR or D-Star. Sometimes I could listen via the local repeater in DMR, but not in Blue DV, and other times in this star. So it really jeopardized the YouTube streaming this Saturday. So I apologize. So I'll try to keep it on track until the end of this net. That's what I wanted to inform you all. A4FL, PY2BBQ.
Okay, Hilton, I'm back here on the stick. I had disconnected a piece of equipment, reconnected. I may have had to reboot Blue DV. Are you copying me now on Blue DV?
Yes, I'm copying you just fine. A4FL, PY2BBQ.
Yeah, just too many permutations here. Thanks for hanging in with us. Sorry I lost some of that towards the end here in terms of what was coming on the D-Star side. But I do appreciate everything you've done and doing, and I've been more than happy to talk to you and get the settings here. I just haven't been around. I'm traveling again on Monday back to North Florida for 8 or 9 days, and I've got such a backlog at the University of Florida of projects. We have another another CubeSat that's being built, and having to give input on that, and we have retirees that are hams that need to use the station, faculty members, students that are coming in the fall. So things are on the upswing because I'm getting a lot more inquiries. That means we're going to beat COVID and we're going to be active at W4DFU in the fall. Over.
Oh yeah, you can be sure, Jay, that in your absence, Mark did a great job as a net controller, and we were always here doing the streaming, right? So do your job, what you have to do, and we'll always be here in the backup. LPY2BBQ.
Thank you, Hilton. I assume that N4TSC is still listening to the YouTube stream. So we appreciate that. We called the net to the close on the DMR side, so we'll do the same here on the D-Star side. And hopefully next week we'll have a more of a functional relationship. That's what wasn't coming through before in my transmission when I had the problem with the Blue DV needing to be rebooted. But I did transmit that on the DMR side. Thanks again, Hilton, and thank everybody else in for TSC. There's a comment from K3FZT Steve, and I suppose all of you that if Jerry, if you've seen the instant message side of NetLogger, he gives a link here now to an educational video. So I'm not sure if it's on the Google group or if it's a clinical related to the topic we were talking about. Hopefully it is. 7-3 guys, calling that to the close. AA4FL, we'll see everybody next week, but I'm here for final comments.
WA1EXA 73.
N4TSC. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jay, for everything. And Jay, sometime during the weekend, I'll try and give you a landline phone call. And thanks for everything you guys do. N4TSC clear.
This is Steve for that. AA4FL 7-3, closing the net. Thank you.